I'm here at the home of the people that were evicted on Tuesday morning, and Robert, who is a neighbour who was present during the eviction, has kindly agreed to talk to me. So, Robert, what time did you arrive at on Tuesday morning?
At about 8 o'clock.
Right.
And the folk in the family in the house had a comprehension that something like this might go on, or that there might be some attempt to take them out of their land or their house. And a number of us collected here. And
how many of you were there?
Would have been 10 at the start, probably 20 at one stage.
Yes.
And we were given a little bit of a ruse about that the whole thing was over, and maybe 10 of our folk went away.
Yes.
And we were in the house having a cup of tea, and the next thing...
So, sorry, just to hold you there, so you sort of felt then that the threat of eviction was over?
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
so,
early on.
Yes.
And we were led to believe that now, and I won't say how, but everyone there thought it was over.
Right.
And the girl in the house heard a bang on the door, and she went out and she started screaming, come out, they're trying to break in the gate. We went out to the gate, and there were 22 or 23 or 25 fellas with black, I won't say paramilitary, but black, some kind of black uniforms. I'm looking in the gate, and they're still there with their black uniforms on them. And they came in and they said that they were taking possession and that we had to get out. And they took one gentleman who'd be a man of 63 or 4, and he put his hands up and objected, and he wanted to see on what legal authority had them there. And
was there a spokesperson? Did one of them take on to speak for?
No, not at that stage, not at that time.
Yeah.
They grabbed him, they threw him to the ground, they battered him, and I don't know if he got a kick or what he got, or one of them punched him, but he had some broken teeth and he was bleeding, and bleeding badly. He didn't raise his hand to anybody. He didn't at any time attempt to hit anybody or do anything. There was no assault from our end.
And where did that happen? In the kitchen?
No, at the gate. Just at the gate.
Yes.
There were 2 dressed members of the Garda Síochána, claimed themselves to be members of the Garda Síochána, standing outside the gate, and they were approached and asked what were they doing, and they said that was on private property, they couldn't go in.
So they actually saw this assault?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, it's on video. It's on, yeah. They did see it. Yes, they did see that assault.
Yes.
And there would have been numerous other Gardaí in the area. There was the old people would call it a Black Maria. There was one of those big machines around here, and there was a northern Black Maria that these northern fellas had come on. They went to drag me out, and I said, you should be proud to be Irish. And one fella put his head down to my face and he said, I'm British. And I was ashamed myself to be Irish on that day. I was all round the world. I was in Australia, I was in Brazil, I was in America. I was always happy to put my chest out and say I was Irish. On that day, I'm very sorry to say I was ashamed to be Irish, to see 2 members of the Garda Síochána, and the man that they were kicking on the ground was an ex-member of the Garda Síochána. And they were unable, I don't know why or what was wrong. They're supposed to be peace commissioners. They were unable to help the man. There's something wrong in this country. There's something very wrong in this country when that kind of thing can go on. And these paramilitaries, or I don't know what they were, or I still don't know what they were. I don't know if they were armed. They went in, there's one gentleman that lived in the house. That night, the night of the eviction, would be the first night in 64 years that he lived outside the house. They dragged him from his chair and dragged him out the door. He was never in any court, or was never evicted. He was 64 years in the house. I think that man had an entitlement to live in his house. Whatever about debt or whatever about anything else. But the situation is as it now. We're now on, this is on Friday. This is on Friday afternoon. And the house is still in possession of those, our northern friends. So I don't know. We're gone into a quiet country. We're gone crazy.
Well, there's actually a number of High Ace vans parked in the yard with Northern Ireland registrations. There are 3 men that we can see dressed from head to toe in black. over 6 foot tall, very large build, very intimidating looking. There's a chain on the gate, a padlock on the gate, and we've been told that there are a number of men also inside in the house, and the family have taken refuge with neighbours.
There are 22 or 23 of them in there since, and actually yesterday they have animals in there, and the gentleman, the 64, looks after cats and recovers them, and that's his job, and that's what he likes to do. And the Gardaí were contacted to get in there to get the animals out. And a member of the Garda Síochána arrived yesterday with some of the family members, and it's my belief that they wouldn't allow her in to get the man's belongings. They brought out, if they asked what they wanted, it was brought out to them. But the cats are still here, and I see them still running around, and I don't know if they've been fed. And I don't know where the animal welfare should be notified of this kind of thing. And it's.
Now, I just want to clarify one matter. There is a rumour that the road was closed off on both ends by the Gardaí. Is that your understanding?
It's no rumour. It's no rumour. It's fact. It's fact.
And how can you say that?
I was here. Right. I had to drive through that when we were going out of here that evening. We had to drive through. There was 4 or 5 squad cars that had the road closed. I believe there were more on the Strokestown end of it.
So both ends of the road?
Both ends of the road was completely closed down, and nobody let in or out.
Okay, so I'm just going to turn the camera around, and we can see that it's just a narrow country boring.
That's right.
That's just
right.
One car can
correct.
Yes. Get up and down, and so it was very easy for the guards to close it off.
Correct. It was, and what I was sad about that they were there and saw one of their own, who was a retired member of the Garda Síochána, being kicked to the ground and battered and abused.
So there was a retired member of the Gardaí present in the house when these men arrived. He was standing in solidarity with the family.
Correct.
And he ended up...
he ended up being kicked and battered and ended up in Ballinasloe Hospital on that evening.
And have you any news on how he is?
He's okay. He's okay now. Yes, he has a problem with his teeth, and that'll get sorted.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
He's physically okay.
So to those of you who have been watching, and some people are asking the question, what's going on? We're down here in County Roscommon, a couple of miles from Strokestown, where on Tuesday morning, up to 30 mercenaries from Northern Ireland travelled here on behalf of KBC Bank to evict 2 elderly men and their sister from their farmhouse, a farm that has been in their family for the last number of generations. The house was built in the 1950s, and the family are now staying with neighbours. They've not been allowed back into the house, and all their possessions are there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually, and thank you very much for that interview.
I'm very sorry to have to make such an interview.
Yes.
I feel ashamed to be Irish, and I thought I'd never say it.
Yes. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to get out, and I'm going to just let people see the farmhouse and the situation at the minute. Okay? So this is the farmhouse, and as you can see, there's a padlock on the gate. There is this van here. There's 2 men in it, dressed from head to toe in black. They're wearing black caps, and this is the farmhouse. Further up the yard, I don't know if you can make it out, up at the sheds, there is another navy coloured high-ace van that has a Northern Ireland registration. So I'm making an appeal to you now to please share this video and let people know what's actually happening in this country. Just press the share button and get word out there. Thank you very much for watching.